Hello and welcome to the program. Many Colombians never thought they would see it happen, and 260,000 of them did not live to see it happen. At the end of August, a peace deal was struck between the government and the FARC, a Marxist guerrilla group that has waged an insurgency for 5 decades. The accord still leaves various sticking points such as disarmament, and allowing repentant FARC leaders to avoid jail could be a bitter pill for Colombian society to swallow. But my guest today argues that reconciliation is essential. Ingrid Betancourt was perhaps the most high-profile hostage held by the FARC. She was campaigning to be president of Colombia when she was captured by the rebels in 2002. After 6 years of grueling captivity in the jungle, she was freed in a daring commando raid. Today, Ingrid Betancourt is studying theology at Oxford University. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I suppose the conventional wisdom is that if you don't have justice, then you can't have lasting peace. Do you agree with that? Do you think that your former captors should go to jail?
Justice doesn't mean jail, per se. I think it's true that you don't have peace if you don't have justice. But I think that the justice we're talking about is a justice, a constructive justice, not a justice that is like a revenge kind of price to be paid. We're going to have justice in Colombia. You know, right now, because of the war, our judicial system is very weak, 95% of impunity. So with this peace agreement, we will have a tribunal appointed just to put to trial my former captors, the chiefs of the FARC, and I think that's amazing because these are guys that were not defeated completely, that could be out there killing and doing all the wrongs they can, but they accepted to go on a peace negotiation and by their own will to confront the tribunal and to confess and to pay.
Right, so it seems that prison is actually a likely consequence, despite what you said.
It could be a consequence. There are rules that have been set for those. Well, first there's going to be an amnesty for the young people, the soldiers that were recruited sometimes by force, children that were recruited by the guerrilla. But the chief commanders, the ones that are responsible for mass murders, for torture, and for kidnapping, they will have to face this tribunal. And the rules are that if they confess, they will have a sentence that will be a maximum of 8 years of imprisonment, but not necessarily in a jail, in a conventional jail, but with limitation of movement in some areas.
I suppose the risk is that there could be some kind of tactical confession, and I imagine what you want to see is for those people to really understand what they actually did to the people they held captive, such as yourself.
It would be a very bad deal for them to try to cheat, because the advantages they will have to give us the truth of what happened during this war. And this, I think, is so important for all of us, for the victims, to understand. For us that came back, we can tell the story, but how many, as you said, 260,000 people.
And many more displaced, of course.
And many more displaced and disappeared.
That's right, 45,000. And do you think that how does the kind of de-brainwashing, how could that happen in reality? How could particularly the younger people understand that perhaps they were not in control of the forces that sucked them into this, but somehow they have to get out of it and become members of Colombian society? Who's going to see them through that process?
I think it's a challenge for all of us as Colombians of the society, but I believe also that because they are young, they're adolescents, they might want to stay in groups. They have formed kind of families between them. So I suppose that for surviving, they will stay together. But it's important that the society, the Colombian society, welcomes them
Yeah.
in a generous way without trying to put them aside for the past they had. And that's peace building.
Yeah, it's obviously a slow process. Do you see a role for yourself in that peace building in Colombia? I mean, of course, you've been outside Colombia for most of the last 8 years, I understand.
Well, I believe we all have a role, and I see mine as reflecting on how to help others to walk the long path of peace now, which has to be walked with generosity, with a sense of compassion, and with nobleness of heart. Because it's easy to act like a cockroach and to try to, feed yourself from trash. We need to fly up and to try to think not in the suffering we had, but in what we're sparing our children and the future generations to live, because we will be generous enough to make peace.
But you don't see yourself doing some kind of work in Colombia itself as in an institution or some kind of very specific role?
No, not particularly. I probably would have to think about that. It's not that I don't want, it's that I haven't been offered. And it would be such a change of life that I would like to, I would have to consider. It's not only me, it's my family. I mean, there are many things involved to take a decision like that.
And part of you, I imagine, in a way, perhaps wants to sort of keep all that at arm's length on some emotional level because of what you experienced.
Well, that's true. That's true. And you see, one of the things is that the emotions are always like dragging back, because you have your will of forgiveness, you have your rationale, that it's liberating to forgive, and then you walk that path. But then when you have your memories and you remember things, then your emotions come back, and it's hard to just, control that and say it's the past, and to feel that those strange feelings against people that made you suffer, how to make them go.
Yeah. Just on sort of how you've changed since that event in 2008 when you were freed. Obviously, some of the other hostages that were kept with you, they said some quite hard things about you in a book. And I just wondered if you'd sort of been in contact with them or expressed perhaps some kind of regret about some of the things that happened. Is that part of the process?
I think that when we were freed, many of my fellow hostages were experiencing like the fear of being accused of when you live in a experience like we all lived in captivity, you are so nude in front of the others, and we all saw what everybody was doing, and we all, it's so easy to judge the others. I think that now that time has passed, I suppose that everyone is more in peace with themselves and with the others. In my case, I don't have any kind of bitterness or anything to my fellow hostages, because whatever they said or whatever they did before or after captivity, for me, it's so much that we all were victims. That, the only thing that it's easy for me to forgive those who were in my same position. It's a little more difficult when you think about people that were the responsibles or the...
It's more difficult to forgive them, you mean?
Yes.
And that's obviously a process that's still going on.
Yeah.
And just to get back a little bit more to the deal and the sort of political implications, there's obviously going to be a referendum on October the 2nd in Colombia to say yes or no to this peace deal. What do you expect the result is going to be of that?
Well, I will speak with my hope, but I really believe that Colombians are going to be brave and audacious, and that they will stand up and massively vote for a yes. That's what we need to do. It's the call of our generation. I think we cannot be less than that.
And I suppose they have to accept that forgiveness is something that may come much later or not at all, but they, in a sense, have to start with small steps.
Yes, and knowing also that forgiveness is something that it's an individual kind of issue, but reconciliation is a dual one. And even if we have hard time forgiving, we can, by seeing the regrets in the other counterpart, we can walk the path together for reconciliation, and that's what I'm hoping.
So very important is to see that regret in the eyes and the face of the former oppressor,
yes, but,
in your case.
but not as a fake kind of thing.
Yeah.
But really as an understanding of the harm and the suffering they imposed on us.
We'll have to end it there. Thank you so much for being my guest on the interview. Ingrid Betancourt, author of Even Silence Has an End, which is an account of her 6 years in captivity in Colombia, also the author of a novel, The Blue Line. That's all we have time for on the interview. Thanks for watching.